Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AFSA's session. AFSA is the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. We are very happy that you come to join our session today, where we will be talking about the seed struggle in general in Africa, our struggle for seed sovereignty, which is part of food sovereignty. So as an intro, we will share with you a short film which is giving a kind of overview of how farmers, their organization, and other civil society organizations are trying to visit to corporate seed, taking seed in Africa. So just your attention for a couple of minutes for you to see what we are doing in the seed sector in general.
Indigenous seed is very important because it plays a very crucial and critical role for food and nutrition at household level, even at national level. But the policies that we have now, the decisions that are being made are pushing this seed away. Most of the time, the policies that are made impact the farmers in the negative way because these policies are pushed by big multinational companies.
This seed was given to us by God. We have sovereign right to this seed. It is a symbol of our freedom to be who we are, to grow what we want to grow, to eat what we want to eat, to share what we want to share. It's a birthright, and it is a symbol of our cultural heritage. No one has got the right to come and dictate to us which seed to grow, which seed to keep, which seed to share. What right do they have? I really get upset that a man, a person, an organization can take it upon themselves to dictate to everybody in the world how they should live their lives, what they should eat, what seed to grow. What right do you have?
This is my farm. I'm gonna show you where I planted my seeds. The seeds, which is our inheritance. It is our pride. It is our life. It is what we depend on. In this field, I've never applied any chemical. No fertilizer, no herbicide is used, and no hybrid has been used in this. I know our governments give us some inputs, but that creates dependency as well at a certain stage. So we are trying to run away from that. We are doing this because I know if you produce the food using natural seeds, natural fertility, crops will be very healthy. So that is why I, in the community, promote this so that we do not rely on anyone. The culture is very important. So whatever we have as seed, whatever we have we are using or whatever we are consuming should be passed on to the next generation. So whatever I have, I urge my children to keep on using it because it's very important. It to reduce dependency, to improve the nutrition, and to keep their culture, their identity as well.
The policies that are being made, they are not for us, we poor peasant farmers. The business that has come into our country, it has come to ruin us. Let us shy away from it so that we save our children and we save our lives. This is my urge to all Zambians to stand for our local seed, to stand and promote our local seed, to stand and voice up to the government, to stand and tell those who are coming to help the peasant farmers, the world outside there, come to our aid. If you are not careful, we are being enslaved by these seeds that are coming.
The agenda of the farmers is to ensure that they have enough food for their families and for the generations that are going to come. The agenda for the farmers is that they protect the biodiversity that is in their communities. But the agenda of the few on the other side is that they make profit of these farmers, taking away knowledge from the farmers, taking away the resource that the farmers have to just favor a few people. We really call for support for the indigenous seed that the farmers have continued to use from generations and generations that have come and have gone. We don't want this seed to disappear. We need to have this seed because it shapes the food and nutrition security at the household level. Therefore, we need to ensure that farmers' voices are heard.
You're on mute, Famara.
Thank you, Frances. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for watching this teaser of our session today. I'm going to introduce a bit what is AFSA. AFSA is the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. It's a broad alliance of organizations, civil society organization, farmers organization, pastoralists, hunters, gatherers, and a lot of youth organization, even faith-based organization that are fighting, that are promoting food sovereignty in Africa. So AFSA is a policy advocacy organization. Currently it's the largest alliance, civil society alliance in Africa, struggling for food sovereignty and agroecology. So it's a policy advocacy organization. And our action is to contribute to design policy that are of interest of Africans, to avoid that policy, food policy and any other policy related to food sovereignty being designed by others' interests. Currently, AFSA has more than 35 member networks. AFSA's members are networks mainly based in Africa. And AFSA's work is designed by the members. When we say the members give the direction to AFSA, which is an alliance with a very keen secretariat, the members have a lot of experience in the struggle for food sovereignty. And through the members, we have up to 4 working groups. Working group on seed, working group on land, working group on climate, and a working group about nutrition and healthy, which we can call healthy diets. Today, we are going to talk about what the seed working group is doing for seed sovereignty in Africa, which is part or the entry point for food sovereignty. And if you talk about seed, we are talking about farmer managed seed system, not industrial seed systems. Today also, we will have up to 4 presentations. But before I go to that, I would like to tell you, as AFSA is a policy advocacy organization, we have a theory of change. So we do a lot of research to have evidence, because for us, before you advocate, you need to have clear evidences. Then we try to educate our pupils. And then we try to mobilize so that we can be a single and loud voice to talk with a single voice as Africa. and the African Union being our main targets. So after the research, the education, mobilization of people, then we go for policy advocacy. So we engage advocacy spaces. Those are the 4 pillars of AFSA's theory of change. So when we are advocating, we fight on 2 levels, 2 pillars. In one hand, we denounce whatever we are against, something like GMO, we denounce it at the hardest way as we can. And with the other hand, we try to provide, we try to give solution. And the most of the solution we are giving, we want them to be African driven. We want them to be rooted or designed by agroecology or food sovereignty. So this is more or less what is AFSA. So I was saying that we have more than 35 member networks, and AFSA is in more than 50 countries out of the 54 that constitute Africa. So for today, we will have 4 main presentations. One from Zambia, is our sister Juliet. Another one from Kenya. Zambia is in the southern part of Africa. Another one by Anne in the eastern part of the continent, from Kenya. A third one by Mamadou from West Africa. And the third, number 4, will be presented by Jeanette from Southern Africa as well. So we won't lose more time. We will go to talk about now the presentation from Zambia. What is it about? It will be done by Juliet. Juliet is our sister based in Zambia, who spent most of her time working with communities at grassroots level. I'm even about to say that Juliet is a farmer or a peasant by spirit. And she will tell us about the farmer's capacity in terms of breeding, in terms of research, in terms of designing what type of seeds they want so that they are yieldy and they respond also to a lot of other needs. So the farmer's capacity, why we are saying here in Africa that farmers, that peasants are also researchers, they are scientists. So I want to go longer than that. I will enable my sister Juliet from Zambia to give us a presentation in about 7 to 10 minutes about what they are doing in Zambia. Thank you. Juliet, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Famara. I hope you can get me clear. Just give me a thumbs up on my screen and I'll see it if you can get me very clearly. Yeah, thanks, Famara. Thank you for joining the session, to everyone that has joined today. My name is Juliet Nangamba. I am based in Zambia, Lusaka. I work with an organization that's called Community Technology Development Trust in Zambia, CTDT. And as Famara has mentioned, we work a lot in the rural communities within Zambia. We are also a member of the Zambia, the organization I work for is a member of the Zambia Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity, which is a member of AFSA and working on the seed work within AFSA. And this is how I have found myself here. So I'm going to share a presentation with you that's based on the plant breeding that we're doing here in Zambia with the farmers as researchers, and having the farmers to the table, come to the table in the seed systems, and them developing the kinds of seeds that they want. I'll just share my screen now. Okay. Yeah, so I have already introduced myself. So I've put on the screen what we're saying, a perspective on a holistic seed systems, and just have a look at it. I'll speak a bit about this. So I think in Southern Africa, seed systems are seen as either informal what they call them. We call them farmer-managed seed systems because these are seed systems that the farmers have worked with for a long time. And they've worked with these seed systems for purposes of actually sustaining their livelihoods. And we also have what we call formal seed systems, which are controlled by corporates for the purpose of probably making profit and having more money in their pockets. In Zambia and many other countries in Southern Africa, the farmer-managed seed systems, or what people understand as the informal seed system, is often undermined and neglected, but yet provides the majority of farmer seeds within a member state of the Southern region or many other countries in Africa. Provides about 60 to 75% of farmer seed needs within the farming communities. And I speak for Zambia because I am based in Zambia. I share this slide to just show what we think a holistic seed system should be, not just a seed system that is controlled by the private sector, a few people taking the seed to the agro dealers and taking the seed to the community. But we want to see that farmers are taking center stage in developing seeds, and they're collaborating with a lot of other institutions in developing this seed, including gene banks, international agriculture research centers, plant breeding institutes, universities. When we talk about seed systems, it's a complex structure and it needs a lot of players, not just a few players, because when we leave a seed in the hand of a few people, then we're creating a disaster for future generations that are coming. So for a complex system, we need a complex structure, and that involves everyone. So what we have been doing in Zambia, I don't know why my PowerPoint is not moving. Okay, there we go. So we have been working with the farmers in Zambia because we recognize the roles that farmers play in sustaining both the farmer-managed seed systems and the formal seed systems, because they continually are selecting superior varieties and advancing these varieties to next generations, and thus maintaining crop diversity, building a base on which we can develop more varieties of crops. But if farmers have not been doing this, we would have not have seen all these other materials that we see, or crop varieties that we see now. So how are we strengthening the farmer-managed systems? So the farmers that we work with are involved in research, and they're doing this research through farmer field schools, and they're doing participatory plant breeding. So when we're speaking about participatory plant breeding, here the farmers are developing the varieties that address their needs and are suited for their agro ecosystems. So this participatory plant breeding that we're talking about is definitely different from the conventional way of breeding, the way things are done. Maybe I can say in the formal sector. We are not just going to the farmers with finished materials or finished varieties product and tell them to test them and give us, what they think about the varieties that are being developed. No, but what we are doing with the farmers is that they are developing either their own materials through a making process, or they are restoring some of their varieties, that some of their favorite varieties, farmer varieties that they love so much, they restore them, or they're selecting from segregating populations. In this regard, this type of breeding then makes the breeding demand-led, where we have the farmers actually setting their own breeding objectives, setting the kinds of traits that they want to see in varieties, and obviously taking into context their environments where they're in, so that they develop the materials that are suited for those environments. The farmers are not working by themselves, so we're working closely with plant breeding institutes, obviously those that are breeding crops in the interest of the public. We're working with other minded stakeholders, CSO, we're working with government extensions, we're working with also academia. So the interesting process about the participatory plant breeding is that it's empowering for the farmers. That's number one. So it's creating a base, an empowered base of farmers that actually can, tackle issue around seed systems. But also we are there's a lot of co-creation of knowledge that's bridging the gap between traditional knowledge and scientific knowledge. So what are the changes that we have seen using this approach? So we have seen that there's strengthened collaboration and improved ways of working with farmers and stakeholders. I think the issue about seed, I have already mentioned, that should not be left in the hands of few people, because if we leave the control of seed with few people, then we are destroying the future for the coming generations. Right now, we are faced with issues of climate change. And if we're just breeding specific types of varieties which are not suited for the environments which the farmers are in, then we're creating problems in the farming communities, and we're not building resilience within the communities. So the collaboration is very important, because we want to bring in the expert knowledge of the breeders, we want to bring in the expert knowledge of the farmers. We know that farmers have been breeding crops from time immemorial. So we also know that they're expert in this work. Hence, we need to collaborate and develop the varieties that are suited for the environments. We have seen that using this approach of participatory plant breeding, we have seen an increase in crop and variety diversity in the farming communities. We have also seen a community of empowered farmers that take lead in resolving issues around seed, food, and nutrition security. We have seen that there's an appreciation and increase in plant genetic resources as a foundation for participatory plant breeding. Not only participatory plant breeding, but any form of breeding, there's need to have a good genetic base, because if you have a narrow genetic base for breeding, then you cannot develop varieties that will tackle the issues that might come in the future. Recently, we are struggling in Zambia. We've been struggling with the 4 armyworms. I don't think we have varieties that are addressing that. We're struggling with drought now. I don't think we have bred varieties that are drought tolerant. Though people say that the varieties that are drought tolerant, but every time that there's a drought, we are losing crops. So if we do not keep this genetic base, it means that we have a narrow pool of materials that we can use for breeding, either when we're doing the participatory plant breeding or we're developing varieties for the formal sector. So what are the challenges that we have faced during this work? Obviously, there's a very limited pool, small pool of breeders to work with, as institutions have a limited number of breeders. So we're saying, even if we want to work with the breeders, we want to collaborate more. There are very few breeders who are actually even understanding how to do participatory plant breeding and we're sharing these same breeders with the corporates. So we're saying we need more breeders to actually breed materials in the interest of the public, who are the communities, who are the farmers. We're also, even if there's a small pool of breeders, but we're also realizing that actually some breeders are understanding that working with the knowledge of the farmers is very important, because when they breed varieties from wherever they breed them and bring them within the community, sometimes the varieties are rejected because they are working in silos and they're breeding material that is not suited for the environments where the farmers are. But if they start breeding crops and materials or varieties that are addressing the farmer needs, then the varieties that are there will be more accepted, and they'll address the issues that are within the communities rather than the way it is now. So we have also seen that germplasm ownership as relating to IPR as intellectual property rights is an issue, and the seed laws are an issue. So even if the farmers are breeding this material, we have seen that there is very little support that goes into the varieties that the farmers are developing. There's no mechanism in which to register or certify these varieties that the farmers are developing through PPB. And the state laws are getting more and more stringent now. So
Juliet, can you organize to conclude, please?
Yes, thank you,
running
Famara.
out of time, please.
Yeah. So if we are not addressing the issue around policies, then the seed issues, the farmer varieties will not be addressed. We've also seen that there's also very limited funding going to the PPP as compared to the other areas of work. In short, we're saying that the breeding, the work that farmers are doing to develop the farmer varieties is not being recognized, and we have found that the PPB mechanism is an avenue that we can use to address issues around policy, around recognition of farmer managed seed systems. And thank you. I'll take any questions in the chat or during the question and answer session. Just to say that these are one of the varieties that we have developed with the farmers as seen in picture. This is now in the F5. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Juliet, for showing the technicity, the practice that farmers are doing, the lack of support they are having, and the room for policy advocacy. Thank you very much for the highlights. Now, the floor is going to Maina. Let me take 2 minutes to talk about who is Maina. Maina is the National Coordinator of the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. We call it BIBA Kenya. She has been actively working on challenging false solutions being pushed in Africa, like genetic engineering, biofuels, the push for a green revolution in Africa, and carbon markets as a strategy to cope with climate change in Africa. She has been very instrumental in the growth and development of a lot of networks in Africa, such as the Eastern and Southern Africa Small-Scale Farmers Forum, which we call ESAF, Participatory Ecological Land Use Management, which we call PELUM, and even AFSA, the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. So she's been working a lot in setting up organization or supporting organization to grow. So this is Anne, who will be talking to us about the biosafety struggle in Eastern Africa and Kenya, namely. And the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Famara, and thank you everyone for allowing us to share with you our key messages as the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa. As Famara has introduced me, Maina from BIBA Kenya, and I'm happy to share on some of the resistance to GMOs in Africa, some of the struggles we've gone through in East Africa, with a lot of inclination to Kenya, where I come from. A brief about the genetically modified organisms. We know these are artificially manipulated in the laboratory through genetic engineering using gene guns, where you cross the species barrier. We now have GMO 2.0, where a lot of these now are even happening at the artificial level. And there are also some global policies and legislations that regulate GMOs internationally. We have the Biodiversity Convention and the Cartagena Protocol, and also some principles like the precautionary principle, the principle of liability and redress, access and benefit sharing. All these laws are designed to protect both biological diversity and humans from any adverse effects of organisms modified by the modern biotechnologies. But you find that in some of the countries, not much of this is taken into consideration, even with many of them, the 3 countries in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, having been signatories to the Biodiversity Convention and the Cartagena Protocol. This is a small map that shows how the spread of GMOs in Africa. It's a bit old, 2015, and it shows, you'll see from the map, The countries where we have the green and the stars is where there's commercialization of GMO crops. We have Egypt and the Sudan with Bt cotton and other crops. We now have Kenya, which has recently from 2019 started commercialization. We have South Africa, which has GMO maize, Bt cotton, and we have Burkina Faso, who have had for some time Bt cotton, but eventually abandoned it. When you look at the case of Kenya, in December of 2019, even after many years of civil society raising a lot of concerns about GMOs, the cabinet made a decision in 2019 to commercialize Bt cotton because the president had this agenda where we are going to revitalize manufacturing under 4 pillars. There was food security, there was manufacturing, and under manufacturing, we're talking about textile, revival of the textile industry in Kenya. And there was a push that Bt cotton would be the one to be used to help in revitalizing a lot of our industries, textile industries. And then also in 2020, the Bt cotton seeds were launched, but there's already a lot of mamas on the ground where farmers are still dependent on government or depending on government to provide for them the seed and the fertilizers and the pesticides. Just last year, there was a lot of issues where farmers were raising and saying that they would like to get the pesticides on time and all those. And so you can see a lot of dependency there. And the cost of the seed has, we wrote about it way back in 2018 about the cost of seed after visiting Burkina Faso in 2017. And so we together with a colleague wrote an article where we talked about the price of the Bt cotton being almost 39 times higher than the conventional varieties. And we are seeing that happening in Kenya now. We also have a situation where Kenya is the first country in the whole world to commercialize GMO cassava because what the scientists have been saying that they would like to deal with the issue of the cassava brown streak disease, which is a viral disease present in East Africa. But one of the recommendations we made when you're criticizing and when you're called to give public comments on the commercialization was that we can control this disease by basically ensuring that the cuttings, which is basically the seed of the cassava, are not moved from one place to another, and we'll be able to control the cassava brown streak disease. The situation in Tanzania is also very interesting. Tanzania started off with a very strict precautionary principle where they were very strict on introduction of GMOs. In 2018, the government of Tanzania canceled GM trials. The second time now it has happened in January 2021, where Tanzania canceled all research trials involving GMOs in the country and made a decision to put in place extra biosafety scrutiny of imported GM seed to protect the country's seeds and genetic resources. The interesting bit is that in 2018, when the permanent secretary, who's a very senior officer next to the minister, made the decision to halt the field trials, a principal agriculture research officer at one of the research stations, public research stations in Tanzania called Mikocheni Research Institute, refuted the statement, claimed that there was full support from the government for GMO trials to continue. So you can imagine a junior officer, an officer who's not at the level of the permanent secretary refuting that. So you see a lot of back and forth statements showing that there's a lot of deep divide within the government and consensus with the officials regarding issues of GM crops. But what is good is that now in 2021, there was a ban. In Uganda, there's been a lot of trials that have been going on GMO banana for disease resistance, confined field trials, and those multi-locational trials. There were also trials for nutritional quality, nematode resistance. There have also been trials on cassava. We also have maize trials going on maize, potato for fungal resistance, for rice, for nitrogen use efficiency, water use efficiency, and all those. The interesting bit is that Uganda currently does not have a biosafety law, and the scientists are depending on the Uganda National Council for Science and Technology Act which was passed in 1990 to conduct field trials. There have been several attempts to pass the biosafety bill in Uganda, but civil society in Uganda has been very critical and lobbied the president directly 2 times, and he has rejected this bill 2 times. And this has shown a lot of the effort and the work that the civil society in Uganda have done to stop. Some of the strategies that we have used in our campaigns to stop or rather to call for the stopping of GMOs in the country. In Kenya, we just lost the war in 2019, but from as far back as 2004, there's been a lot of concerted pressure from a lot of the multinationals to introduce GMOs in the country, because Kenya, being a key country in East Africa, is very important in showing the way for the rest of the countries within the region. And so we've done several publications. Like last year, we did a publication with the Kenya Parliamentary Human Rights Association, a white paper proposing recommendations to be put in place before the introduction of GMOs into the country. Over the years, we have done lots of demonstrations and picketing, and also we've been calling for the introduction of GMO-free zones. In Kenya, we have not managed that, but in countries like Senegal, in one of the municipalities, the regional leader has said that that is a GMO-free area. That's one of the ways to protect communities. There's also been quite an amount of farmer information sharing with them through consumer and farmer infographics and policy briefs, not only as Biba Kenya, but organizations working within the region. For example, the Africa Center for Biosafety, working in the region and calling for the country to be careful, the different countries, and some of the key concerns of GMOs. When every application is made, there is usually a call for public participation. Unfortunately, happens in the main city, like in Nairobi. As civil society, we have always made our comments. Unfortunately, some of our regulators seem to be playing to the tune of the multinationals or the applicants for these GMO crops and do not take our views, but that we ensure that we publish and share our views so that the information is out there, even through press conferences and all those. I can see I have a few minutes to go. Articles and blogs. This was one on the pushback, where we're calling for a pushback against risky and unsafe GMO cassava cultivation in Kenya. But why have you always been a bit resistance to GMOs? Most of the GMOs are either herbicide tolerant or insect resistant, and are based, like the herbicide tolerant GMOs are based on glyphosate, or what is popularly known as Roundup. And this has been classified as a class 2A carcinogen by the World Health Organization. But in the country, like in most of the countries in Africa, there's a big push to ensure that farmers are using a lot of this. But nature is quite interesting. It always finds a way to evolve. For example, if you look at the issue of Bt cotton, there's now development of super weeds and super pests that are becoming resistant to the pesticides that are promoted. And so farmers are, in some cases, are being forced to use more and more pesticides, and sometimes even some that are not recommended. For example, this Triatix is a spray that's used to control ticks in cattle, and farmers are now using it to control a pest called Tuta absoluta in tomatoes, which is very dangerous. And that's part of our work that we've been doing in terms of campaigning. But also you find that a lot of these GM crops, either which have been genetically engineered or some of the biofortification is through genetic engineering, the trials have gone on, and like in Asia, there was the golden rice, and this was found to be where they were trying to introduce a beta carotene into the rice, but unfortunately it was found that a child would have to eat almost 40 bowls of rice to be able to benefit from the golden rice, as opposed to just eating 1 carrot a day and getting the same nutritional value. Then you find there's been talk of GMOs being important for climate change, but we find that it doesn't work as much as that, because with climate change, weather verification, GMOs still need lots of water, and a lot of agriculture in Africa is rain-fed. Then I talked about the golden rice, but the biggest driver of these GMOs is about profit for the multinationals. But what are some of the alternatives that we are giving? Agroecology, which is one of the, what is also being promoted by the UN agency FAO, which combines the local farmer knowledge with the most recent scientific knowledge. It's a system where farmers are at the heart of it, combining modern science and innovation. And already smallholder farmers have been practicing this form of agriculture, as Juliet discussed, and bringing in different and variety and biodiversity. It's diverse, knowledge intensive, and there's the use of low external inputs like the toxic pesticides and the fossil fuels that are quite damaging our environment. And of course, the farmer managed systems are the best position to deal with the failures of hybrids and GMOs. And we promote this through different ways, like building of community seed banks. And we would like to go for that kind of diversity in our food systems, because at the end of the day, it's about food sovereignty. It's about the right of people to have access to safe and nutritious food. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup, Anne. Thank you very much, Anne. So after Juliet, who raised what is happening in Southern Africa and Zambia, namely, where she talked about what an African farmer is capable to do and what he is doing in reality, and just to show us what is happening in terms of biosafety in East Africa, namely in Kenya. And you will realize that she focused on Kenya and said the meaning behind is mainly in Africa, in a region, in a sub-region in Africa, one country can have a lot of influence to the others. She was talking about Uganda doesn't have a biosafety law, but what is happening in Kenya can easily happen in Uganda or in another country of the region, or even Uganda taking lesson from that. So I want you sometime to take this perspective while listening to the speakers. So the next speaker will be Mamadou Danfakha of Senegal, West Africa. I will beg your pardon. We did not have the interpretation. Mamadou will be speaking in French, and I will try to interpret or translate whatever is possible. So maybe this presentation could be a bit longer, but we'll try to make it as short as possible. Donc, Mamadou, vous allez avoir la parole et je vais interpréter ce que vous dites. Je vous prie d'être un peu lent ou bien d'arrêter de temps en temps. Merci.
Oui, merci beaucoup Famara. Bonjour donc à tout le monde. Moi c'est Mamadou Danfakha, donc je représente au niveau donc de cette session donc deux organisations que sont le...
Est-ce que tu peux activer ta caméra s'il te plaît? Et je vais te faire ta présentation, oui.
Ça a été fait, mais il y a l'autre qui n'a pas donc activé. C'est l'autre qui doit me donner l'autorisation. Voilà.
So the host should enable Mamadou to turn on his camera. He doesn't have the right, and his name appears here as Juliet Nangamba again. Good. Okay. The open mic, the Juliet with open mic is Mamadou. Okay. The host has to make him co-host. This is Brittany. Donc, Mamadou, il faut veiller pour que vous activez. Quelqu'un est en train de le faire. Okay, thank you very much. So, okay, I have forgotten to introduce Mamadou. J'ai oublié d'introduire Mamadou. So, Mamadou has about 15 years experience of working in environmental and sustainable agriculture issue. For the past 5 years, he has supported the Senegalese Association of Peasant Seeds Producer and the West African Committee for Peasant Seeds, and promoting traditional seeds for the empowerment of farms in quality seeds. He holds a master's degree in sustainable development and environmental management. This is Mamadou. So, Mamadou, vous pouvez continuer, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup, Famara, donc, pour cette introduction et cette présentation. Donc, moi, je vais vous présenter. Je ne sais pas si, Famara, toi, tu vas partager l'écran ou bien?
Non, tu partages ton écran.
Je partage l'écran, OK. Là, je veux le faire, mais je n'ai pas toujours l'autorisation.
OK, attends, je vais voir. Okay, let me try to share yours.
OK, je te laisse partager ça.
I'm a bit lost now. C'est bon?
Ouais, c'est bon. Merci beaucoup. Donc là, moi, je vais vous présenter donc le combat donc pour la souveraineté semencière en Afrique de l'Ouest que le comité ouest africain donc de semences paysannes et l'association sénégalaise de producteurs de semences paysannes mènent donc en Afrique de l'Ouest.
I'm going to share the struggle for seed sovereignty in West Africa.
Et là, je ferai une petite présentation déjà de ces deux structures, à commencer par l'AFSA, qui est l'Association sénégalaise des producteurs de semences paysannes, qui a été mise en place depuis 2003 par des militants donc, qui s'activent dans l'agroécologie et des représentants donc, de 15 organisations. Et les organisations membres sont aujourd'hui donc présentes donc, dans les 14 régions que compte le Sénégal.
In Senegal, for instance, the struggle started with what we call AFSA, which is the Senegalese Association of Peasant Seed Producers. It was created in 2003 and by agroecology activists and seed activists. So the association brings together all the 14 regions of the country. Mm-hmm.
Les objectifs de l'AFSA sont de manière naturelle de promouvoir la semence paysanne et les systèmes semenciers paysans, d'autonomiser les paysans en semences locales, de protéger nos terres des dangers des engrais chimiques et des pesticides donc de synthèse, de revaloriser les techniques et les produits traditionnels de conservation donc de nos semences et des connaissances qui y sont associées, et enfin de favoriser la consommation de nos produits locaux.
The association has mainly 5 objectives: to promote peasant seeds and peasant seed systems, to make the farmers be autonomous in terms of seeds, to protect land against agrochemicals, to revamp technique and knowledge of seeds preservation, and to promote the consumption of local products.
Donc, pour ce qui est du COASP, qui est le comité ouest africain donc, de semences paysannes, qui est pour le moment au niveau donc, de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, qui a été mis en place depuis 2014 lors de la 3e édition de la foire africaine des semences paysannes de Jimini, donc en présence déjà donc, de 8 pays donc, de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, mais aussi de 8 témoins et observateurs donc, qui ont assisté à la mise en place déjà donc, de ce comité.
ISPSP is a national organization, but COASP, C-O-A-S-P, is the regional entity. So it was created in 2014 during a seed exhibition, the third edition of a seed exhibition, where 8 countries of West Africa was there and 8 people coming from out of the region as observers.
Donc, si vous voyez les objectifs déjà donc du COASP et les objectifs de ASPSP sont les mêmes, sauf que déjà pour le COASP, ça a une dimension donc sous-régionale avec un réseautage quand même, donc au niveau de la sous-région ouest africaine.
And in terms of objective, it has the same as the national organization, but what is special here is that it's trying to do a networking and influence regional entities.
Maintenant, pour ce qui est des activités que nous menons déjà pour ce combat, pour la souveraineté alimentaire, pour la souveraineté semencière au niveau donc de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, il y a un point déjà qui est lié à la redynamisation des points focaux pays du TIRPA, qui est le traité international des ressources phytogénétiques pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture. Il y a la mise en place de réseaux de promotion de semences paysannes en agroécologie, l'organisation d'ateliers nationaux et internationaux de formation et d'information des leaders des organisations sur le TIRPA et le droit des agriculteurs, et l'organisation toujours d'ateliers d'information et de sensibilisation et de plaidoyer sur le droit des agriculteurs avec les parlementaires. Et ça a été fait déjà au Sénégal. On a donné l'exemple du Sénégal.
4 main types of activities. The very first one is to try to revamp what we call the focal point of the plant treaty in each of the country. The second one is to try to create a network of farmers who are promoting peasant seeds. We organize a lot of events to raise awareness about what the plant treaty is giving to farmers in terms of rights. And finally, we organize international activities or training for the network, the regional network, to understand what is happening and link it with the parliamentarian, because we want to have some parliamentarians who will be pushing for farmer seed systems. And this one is already working in Senegal.
Donc, si vous voyez ces activités déjà, les activités que nous menons sont focalisées déjà non seulement sur des activités de plaidoyer, d'information et de sensibilisation, mais aussi des activités pratiques, comme un peu on le voit sur le slide déjà donc passé. Et en termes de résultats, ce que nous avons aujourd'hui obtenu, c'est que déjà grâce à ces activités que nous menons, nous avons pu obtenir déjà, toujours, je prends le cas du Sénégal, la mise en place du comité technique TIRPA au sein du ministère de l'Agriculture, et donc cela a été signé par le ministre même de l'Agriculture. Donc, on est en train de mettre en place le réseau des parlementaires ouest-africains pour la semence paysanne. Il y a l'institutionnalisation donc des foires de Jimini pour les années paires. Ça veut dire que tous les 2 ans, on se réunit tous à Jimini, qui est donc au Sénégal, dans la région donc de Kolda et dans le département de Vélingara. Et les autres années, les années impaires, ce sont les pays qui organisent des foires donc au niveau de leur région, au niveau donc de leur localité. Il y a l'existence de réseaux de distribution de semences paysannes par les paysans spécialisés donc dans le domaine de la production de semences. Il y a la mise en place d'un comité de veille et d'alerte juridique sur les semences et l'agroécologie. Et ça, comme en témoigne cette photo avec notre regretté professeur Papa Maïssa Dieng, quand même, qui nous a appuyé pendant des années donc, dans ce domaine, sur cette activité. Donc, paix à son âme.
In terms of results, we can name the following. There exists a seed network in each of the West African country calling itself COASPE, so the country COASPE. In Senegal, for instance, there is a technical community to monitor or to implement the plant treaty in the country, which has been signed by the Ministry of Agriculture. There is a growing network of parliamentarians in West Africa who are supporting farmer seed system. The seed exhibition is now in the agenda, in the annual agenda. Every 2 years, it's happening in Jimini, and in between, it will be in one of the 8 or 9 countries of West Africa. For instance, in 2022, it will happen in Senegal, Jimini. 2024, it will happen also here, and so on. And there is a functional network of farmers who are already sharing seeds coming from their savings. And finally, we have put on place a legal watch on agroecology and seeds. And I'm taking this opportunity to show you one of the biggest lawyer who was helping us, but he passed away some 3 or 4 months ago.
Je profite d'ailleurs de cet atelier pour vous annoncer donc la foire de Jimini de 2022 qui aura lieu donc les 15, 16 et 17 mars 2022 à Jimini. Et vous êtes tous conviés, invités donc à cette foire qui est l'une des activités quand même phares du comité ouest africain donc des semences paysannes, dans la valorisation de la semence paysanne, dans le plaidoyer déjà pour les systèmes semenciers paysans.
I'm taking this opportunity to invite you, to inform you and invite you that on 15, 16, and 17 of March, there will be the West Africa Peasant Seed Fair in Senegal. So you are welcome to join us, where people will be sharing knowledge and seeds and advocate for whatever they want about seed systems.
Et pour terminer, je dirais en termes de perspective, ce que nous avons, c'est de promouvoir le droit des agriculteurs, des paysans à travers le TIRPA, qui est le traité international des ressources phytogénétiques pour l'alimentation et l'agriculture, dont la plupart de nos pays l'ont ratifié et signé, mais quand même l'application de ces traités quand même pose problème, mais nous sommes en train donc de faire quand même des avancées significatives dans cela. Et comme deuxième perspective, c'est toujours la reconnaissance de la semence paysanne et des systèmes semenciers donc, paysans, l'autonomie des paysans en semences, parce que jusqu'à présent, on sait que même si les paysans fournissent pratiquement 90% de leurs semences, il y a toujours donc cette influence qui est là et ce risque déjà qui est là de l'introduction d'autres types de semences et d'abandon de ces semences. C'est de renforcer la diversification des espèces et des semences paysannes. Et ça, quand même.
In terms of perspective, we'll continue to popularize the plant treaty, because even if most of our countries or our government have signed it, but they are not implementing it. So we want our farmers to be aware of it so that they can push their government to implement whatever is needed there. The second perspective is to work and make sure peasant seed systems are recognized by our policy and regulation. The third is to continue to push for farmers to be autonomous, to be independent in terms of seeds. Because even if about 80 to 90% of seeds that are used in Africa comes from the farmers' seed saving, but the influence, the threat of seed industry is there. So we'll continue to push for them to be independent in terms of seeds. And the last perspective, the fourth, is about, yes, still pushing for diversity at farm level to avoid monocropping at farmers level. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Voilà ce qu'on voulait partager donc avec vous sur ce combat donc pour la souveraineté sémencière au niveau donc de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to share with you about farmers' struggle, farmers' organization struggle for seed sovereignty in West Africa. Thank you very much.
Merci.
Okay. Thank you, Mamadou, who told us how in West Africa they are working using an international instrument to push for farmers' rights in the region of West Africa. So the next presentation will be done by Francis, our sister Francis from Zambia, who will focus. We were talking about AFSA. Francis will tell us a bit how the seed working group within AFSA operates. Francis is based in Zambia. She is the coordinator. She used to be the coordinator, and she will belong the coordinator of the Zambian Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity. Francis, you're welcome for 5 to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Famara. You can still, maybe Famara, you can keep your video on. It would just be helpful, and you can show me the time if that's possible. Thanks. And you can hear me okay. Thank you all. So it's really wonderful to be with everyone tonight, and thank you for staying with us quite late. It's a real privilege for us from Africa to participate in this conference, and it's really, really important. And many of us have gathered despite still being away from our offices in Southern Africa, and because we felt that this is a very important platform to raise some of the issues that we are fighting against, as well as calling for solidarity support from particularly from Europe. And so it's really wonderful to be able to engage on this platform tonight and with this audience and at this conference in the next couple of days. So I'm from Zambia, and I, as Famara says, was coordinating. I'm still the advocacy and communications person with the Zambian Alliance for Agroecology and Biodiversity, the network in Zambia. But we really work as a region, as a network across Southern Africa in agroecological farming systems and supporting the food sovereignty movement in Southern Africa, and then with the network in Africa and in West Africa. And so really the reason why this network AFSA came together is the basis of it was that seed is at the heart of the food system. It's at the heart of diverse production systems. It's at the heart of our capacity to adapt to climate change, and at the heart of our ability to connect with ourselves, our families, our land, and our ancestors. And seed is sacred. Seed as diversity is the basis of diversity, which is the basis of life. And so we really recognize it, and it is recognized within a number of international treaties and laws as this basis, and that we really need to protect it. And everyone, I think, who would be attending this conference recognizes the importance of plant breeding material, genetics, livestock, that really will determine the rest of the food system and our capacity to then and how we farm. And so this is one of the founding reasons why AFSA came together, because seed is that nodal point of control that the corporate commercial sector obviously see, and as Africa as the last market ground that corporations really want to get their tentacles in to control and extract resources, extract profit, and control our food system. And so for many, many years, African civil society movements, peasants movements, pastoralists from across the continent have rallied together in defense of seed and in defense of life. And so this remains a foundation of our work. And what we are seeing actually is that regimes like UPOV, the International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants, that is a IP regime, as you know, it encourages further privatization and control over Africa's seed systems. We are seeing European countries actually trying to get out of some of these strict laws that restrict farmers' seed practices, that restrict diversity, and that restrict what was the age-old practice of sharing and exchanging and locally and marketing farm-saved diverse seed. That really is then the foundation of evolution of seed and food system. So as Europe is recognizing the dangers of these very narrow regimes and seed laws, and ensuring that actually we need to broaden breeding programs again, broaden our diversity, we actually, like, in the face of climate change, it's really at the center of our capacity to adapt. We are getting pushed into, through trade regimes, through the African Union, through the corporate capture of our continental political spaces, public spaces, our regional economic trade blocks, and then at national level, and our very own research institutions, public education, is being deliberately captured in order to force African seed systems, Africans to adopt laws that then restrict farmers' seed practices. And so the International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources for Food and Agriculture that Mamadou was speaking about, that is really a foundational treaty, the international treaty that all of this work is based on, recognizes the need that farmers' rights have to be protected. And farmers' rights are those rights that ensure that farmers can freely exchange and develop, conserve their own farm seed, and the diversity of the seed then that is locally appropriate within the very, very different contexts of production across the continent and across the world. So this is a founding treaty that is the basis of a lot of our work, that is a binding treaty that a number of our countries have signed up to and are not necessarily implementing because of a lot of corporate pressure to rather adopt corporate privatized seed laws and regimes that actually then criminalize farmer seed systems. So we do a lot of work, both the work of the Seed Working Group in Africa is both to defend as well as to restore. And so the restorative work is in the seed fairs, the seed exchanges, the peasants movements that come together from across the continent in the different regions at country level, at community level, to actively share seed, farmer seed, which is the very basis of claiming farmers' rights, of claiming the right to the continuation of life, which is this exchange of plant genetic resources, which is the exchange of seed across our regions. So there are both the work, thank you, Famara, both the work that we do in the celebration of the deliberate practices of farmers' rights, of plant breeding activities like Juliet was talking about, Mamadou, the seed fairs that happen now really across the continent. And on the other hand, the work of defense that has to happen. And this is hard work, and particularly has been made worse in the time of COVID, where we have had to transform what was traditional protest mechanisms and participate in what are supposedly consultative meetings online, where we have been presented last minute with things like new guidelines for seed laws, for GMO harmonization of GMO guidelines across the continent, that are deliberately imposed with short notice from the corporate seed and biotech industry, onto our countries through these regional trade blocs. And the formal consultation is very, very brief and short, now often online, and to be able to engage in these spaces is very, very difficult. And so that is really something that the Alliance for Food Sovereignty of Africa, the networks, together with many partners and support from Europe, we've come together to do a lot of research, and our partners, in the Global South, to work together to share the solidarity and experience of how we then, come together to defend our own laws that work for farmers at the local level, as well as then, really develop actually local policies that work for farmers rather than against those. Against them. So this is the twofold work that the continent does under the umbrella, and is really what we ask our colleagues in the movement in Europe to support the Global South on, because a lot of these laws, the criminalization of farmers' rights, are being imposed through foreign policies in many European countries, through the corporate agenda, as well as obviously now, for instance, through the mergers that ChemChina owns, Syngenta, that owns what was now in Zambia, for instance, our own genetic resources developed through the public breeding programs through ZamSeed, which was our national seed company, the public breeding company in Zambia. So this is how the concentration and extraction of controlled genetics has happened. And this is the kind of work that we need to expose, the kind of research that we need to do to defend farmers' rights, to defend public access to genetic resources, the foundation of the food system. And we have to work together to do that. And more and more, there really is the acknowledgement that of this is going to be the determining factor of how we adapt to climate change. So thank you so much, and I'll hand over to Famara and then open up for questions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Francis. Thank you very much for the overview of what is the spirit behind the action we are doing, how we are coming together, what we want to do. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the other speakers as well, Mamadou and Juliet. Now we are going to open the Q&A session. For those who have questions to any of the speakers, this is time to ask. There are already some questions in the chat. Some has been responded, some are still there. Okay, for instance, one ORFC team, really excellent presentation. Many thanks to all the speakers. How can we best show solidarity with AFSA and support your work? I think Frances was talking about that already, but if she wants the floor, she can come again. This is one. Let me go to the other chat. There are several questions there.
Maybe while you just look at those questions, Famara, I can just say, I mean, we just know that, for instance, there's this new, so particularly the new focus on organic farming systems, and a lot of funding that's now actually coming through foreign policies rather than supporting industrial agriculture development in Africa, through a lot of obviously the foreign government policy aid that comes into Africa. That was previously driving a very industrialist, and still is, but there is more and more funding that is beginning to be shifted to agroecology and organic farming systems. And so to really increase that lobby within Europe, that any bilateral and multilateral agricultural development programs from Europe to Africa have to be on the basis of a shift to agroecology, and not promoting industrial farming systems. And many countries, so there's a lot of European countries that are still obviously very much industrial agriculture focused, even though they have great progressive organic agriculture systems within their own countries. It's an extractivist development regime. But so to really increase that lobby from within Europe itself to your own governments, but then also to really, really make sure that any discussion around seed, an organic seed, has to be, organic seed is farmer's seed. Because increasingly we've seen the corporate capture of the organic sector, and this is very much in Europe, that it used to be organic food used to be people's food, and now more and more it's just as much corporate controlled as industrial food. So we're going to see exactly the same thing of corporate seed capture is now going to become, you know, the capture of organic seed, which in Africa is farmer's seed. And so this is now going to be another mechanism through which control can be imposed onto Africa's seed systems. So not only is commercial seed then owned and controlled by the corporates, but then also organic seed will be. So we really, really have to ensure that any discussion around organics means public access to seed and public food, and it cannot be controlled by corporations. And this is something that we really have to defend, and that's an argument that can definitely be pushed from Europe. Thank you. I hope that helped.
Thank you, Frances. There are two questions also to all of us. Do you have links with Navadana in India or with the organizations like GM Freeze in the UK that are campaigning on GMOs? This is one of the questions. The person who wrote it talk about our presentation was very similar to the one that Vandana Shiva did from India did this morning. Another question, talk about, okay, is there a world body for the protection of informal seeds? Does not the Food and Agriculture Organization have a part to play? This is another question. And yes, comment, if I wanted to share land for purpose of growing seed in East Kenya, so we could then distribute further field to other farmers who is best people to talk. The comment, not so much a question as a comment, but worth sharing. I hope that we all leave this meeting with these words of the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu inscribed on our hearts. Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. Good. Comment, yeah, those, okay, Juliet, do you want to answer question about Navadana?
The Navadana Institute. I know that Juliet did visit there because there is a lot of exchange and learning, of course, within the Global South, and I know that Juliet was one of the people who did visit India. I don't know if Juliet wants to share that. Put you on the spot, Juliet.
Yes. I think just to take that question, yeah, I think we have a lot of cross-learning because we share in the similar issues and the similar experiences, the issues around GMOs in India, the issues around GMOs in Kenya, Zambia, and many other countries, but also the issues around the seed. So we have a lot of exchanges and learning with Dr. Vandana Shiva and the institute. Yeah, maybe that's what I can say.
Yes, there is a question about a world body talking about informal seeds or protecting informal seeds, whether FAO has a role to play. Il y a une question sur est-ce qu'il n'y a pas une entité mondiale qui soutient les semences informelles et est-ce que la FAO n'a pas un rôle à jouer?
Oui, moi je voulais répondre et j'étais en train d'écrire sur le chat par rapport à cette question. À ma connaissance, il n'y a pas donc une organisation mondiale. Maintenant, il y a la FAO qui abrite déjà donc le TIRFA, qui est l'organe directeur et supervisé directement donc par la FAO. Mais à ce niveau, il faudrait reconnaître la FAO, c'est toujours les pays qui sont là. Et aujourd'hui, la question de l'application du TIRFA au niveau des pays, c'est lié un peu donc à cela. Ce sont les pays qui désignent les représentants donc de cela. Et ce sont les pays qui doivent un peu donc appliquer. Donc, ça pose problème d'une indépendance déjà donc totale, parce que c'est toujours le pays qui donne son accord, c'est le pays qui doit dire oui par rapport déjà à telle loi, nous sommes d'accord ou pas, mais il n'y a pas vraiment une entité mondiale, donc libre, qui défend carrément donc les semences paysannes. Je ne sais pas si vous avez un peu...
Okay, I'll respond to this question of informal seeds. Personally, I don't know global, institutional, or legal body that is supporting informal seed system. But about FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, I know it's the institution that is hosting the plant treaty. But there also, there is an issue because FAO is about states. Those states has signed agreement, did this and that. It's also the same countries that have signed that are developing some seed law that are maybe against what we want about informal seed system. So even if FAO hosts the plant treaty, which is talking about farmers' rights, in the other hand, FAO hosted is a house for the countries, for the state who have, in the other hand, those seed law which are harmful to biodiversity and so on. That's what I can say for now.
Ouais, et peut-être ce que je voulais rajouter, ce serait intéressant d'essayer de voir, comme nous on l'a commencé un peu en Afrique de l'Ouest avec le KSP, dans les autres régions, si on pouvait se regrouper et maintenant ainsi se regrouper au niveau donc de l'Afrique. Ça pourrait être déjà un élément qui va faciliter le dialogue déjà donc avec l'Union africaine. Et si on le fait aussi ainsi dans les différentes parties du monde, on pourrait donc aussi carrément interpeller quand même les Nations Unies sur la question aussi.
What I wanted to add is, as we did it in West Africa, for instance, other regions can do the same, and then slowly we can influence at various levels. So we are running out of time. We just have 4 minutes. So on a juste 4 minutes, so maybe I will give to Anne, Frances, Juliet, Mamadou, you know, each one 30 seconds to have a word of conclusion if there is no question on the chat.
Thank you. Maybe I can start off. There was a question by Joseph. If I wanted to share land for purposes of growing seed in East Kenya, so we could then distribute further afield to other farmers, who's the best people to talk to? We, and working with other members, we are a network or coalition. There are members that have been working on building community seed banks around the country, working closely with some of our partners like Seed Savers Network and Growing Biointensive Agriculture Center of Kenya. And like for Biba Kenya, we have built 5 community seed banks. So I've shared my email and we can talk more on that. But I would like to thank you all for such a wonderful session and the encouraging words and calling for better collaboration or more collaboration with everyone so that we can do this and protect farmer managed seed systems. Thank you.
Juliet or Francis, who your last words?
Okay, I'll go first, Famara. Just to say thank you to all for attending, and the attendance shows support to the work, and we just hope to receive more support. The work that we're doing is not a very easy road, so it gives us hope, you know, that there's something that we're going to achieve doing this work, seeing everyone here, and also, you know, the questions that are coming, and just to be with us until we've ended the session. Yeah.
Merci, Juliet.
Okay.
Asante. Francis?
I don't think I have any other comments. Just to say thank you so much to everyone and colleagues around Africa. It's good to participate on this and in the conference for the next couple of days. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Frances. Mamadou, 10 secondes.
Oui, merci. Ça a été un plaisir de partager avec vous cet atelier.
It was a pleasure to share this workshop.
J'espère vous retrouver à Gemini au mois de mars prochain pour vraiment la promotion des semences paysannes.
I wish I will meet you in Gemini in March 2022 for the seed fair. Thank you. Okay, I will thank everyone also. And as you've heard, listen from the speakers, there are a lot of to do. Technically, what Juliet was talking about, the knowledge of farmers, they are scientists, we need to recognize it, we need to support those knowledge. In West Africa, using a positive instrument for farmers' rights, which is growing in the region and trying to contaminate elsewhere. In East Africa, a lot of knowledge about biosafety, which is another threat to seed biodiversity and so on. And above all this, we have to organize ourselves. And that's what Francis is trying to help within AFSA, trying to organize people to be a single and loud voice, organize all those small fights which are coming together as a big struggle. So thank you very much. And we hope that next year, we will have Central Africa and North Africa all together to say what is happening in Africa and the victory we are having. We are not just fighting to lose, but to have victories. Thank you very much, all RFC 2022 organizers. Asante sana, karibu, au revoir, bye bye.